Welcome back, everybody. Looking forward each and every week to bringing you at least one book or product review, 2 research studies that I think you or your loved ones need to know about, and of course, a recap to start the week. Before we get into that recap, though, big announcement over at EquiLife. I want to make sure you didn't miss this, and that is we are now accepting HSA and FSA payments. That means you can use your healthcare dollars on your favorite labs or protocols like the CBO gut healing protocol, the heavy metal detox, the mold mycotoxins detox, 30 plus functional medicine labs, and also over 140 different products. So full integrative health-based practice at stephencabral.com/shop. That just takes you over to EquiLife. And now you can actually pay with your HSA and FSA dollars. Those are your dollars. Typically, people lose them if they don't use them by the end of the year. So if you are looking to invest in your health, check it on out now at stephencabral.com/shop and use the FSA HSA at checkout. We actually do and integrate with the doctor's letter to sign off on everything, and everything is taken care of for you. So pretty simple, pretty easy. People have been asking for it for years. Finally, we are now able to implement it with all the great attributes that come along with it. So that is that. If you missed any of the shows this past week, on Monday, we went over how to detox your mind. Definitely check out that show. I gave you 5 phenomenal tips. We've got 5 more coming next week, so tune into that show. Tuesday, we went over how the study is done on mice, but it's very important because these often lead to human clinical trials as well, and you don't want to wait until it moves to human clinical trials, but individuals who were given antibiotics for the flu die at often a rate of more than 3 times, 3x. So since the flu is a virus, we have to be careful when we decide to indiscriminately use those antibiotics. Definitely a public service announcement there. On Wednesday, we went over 3 anti-inflammatory foods you should be eating every single day. I add them in my diet every day. I want to make sure they're simple, they're easy, they're inexpensive. You add them to yours and your family's as well. And then yesterday's show was on the TRIM study on longevity, TRIM. It was essentially 3 products that were used to reverse biological age by almost 3 years in just under 12 months. So pretty fascinating. I gave you the natural way to do it. I'll always bring you what does the exact study say? What are the pharmaceuticals? What can we do from a natural perspective? That's what I do. That's also what I teach in high performance health. All right, let's dive right into now the show. So product review of the week. I was really thinking, I was like, I want to bring people things that they may not have necessarily heard about on other shows, other podcasts, YouTube videos, etc. And we work with a lot of people with headaches, with migraines, or some people are going through chemotherapy. And so this is actually called a headache hat by TheraIce. Again, this is not a sponsored show. This is actually a product that we use. And this one I'm not going to open. It's because I'm actually going to send it to a client right now that we're helping with cancer support. They want to do it from both a natural and they want to do it from a conventional standpoint. So again, we help people however they want to be helped. This slides over. So basically you freeze this, okay? And you slide it over your head. Now you can slide it all the way down to your eyes or right over your eyes if you're someone that gets migraines or headaches. I'm going to give you the use cases. So if you're someone that gets migraines or headaches, one of the great things that you can do, very simple, there's obviously much more that you can do with migraines and headaches. You can put cold on the head or cold on the neck and heat on the feet. So you do a cold pack like this that slides literally over the head, and it's called vascular shunting. So essentially what happens is there can be vasodilation and opening up of the blood vessels when you get a migraine or headache. And then what we want to do is close up those blood vessels so you're not getting the pouring of blood into the cranium, your head, and instead move it down towards the feet. So we put the feet in either a bucket of hot water, or you could just use a hot heat pack on your feet. So very simple, very straightforward, and it works. And actually, there was a recent study that just doing that alone. So again, we recommend other things like the Inflammasoothe and omega-3s and low histamine diet. Also, I've got lots of shows on that. We'll try to link some up for you today at stephencabral.com/3556. But the study showed that the pain intensity was reduced by 31% on average by simply doing this. Like very simple, very straightforward, reduce the pain by 1/3. That's pretty good, right? So there are many companies like this, but this one, the Headache Hat Pro, you're going to freeze this, and you are literally, the gel's going to get cold. You're going to slide it over your head and even your eyes, and it's going to move the blood out of the head. Why would it work for chemo? Well, for chemotherapy, a lot of people use it to try to reduce hair loss. So they do it during the chemotherapy infusions. That's that. So how long do you have to use it for? 15 to 20 minutes, 30 minutes. If you're kind of resting, I think it's a great way to do it. It'll start to warm up anyways as the cold infuses into your body. Again, simple, straightforward, right to the point, great to have at home. Just keep it in your freezer and it's good to go whenever you need it. My goal though for you is you only use it symptomatically while trying to find the underlying root cause of those headaches or migraines, which you can absolutely do. All right, research study number 1 for the week. We've got it right here. I've got all sorts of great articles. This one's out of, let's see. Catching up on your sleep is good for your heart. So I read this, knew that of course that I wanted to bring it to you because some people worry that if they miss one night's sleep or, they're doing an overnight flight, whatever it might be, that, they're wrecking their health. Every once in a while, none of this matters. It really doesn't. That's just kind of part of being human. But here's another great study. This was done in over 90,000 adults by researchers at Fuwai Hospital, National Center for Cardiovascular Disease in Beijing, China. Presented at the 2024 European Society of Cardiology at their annual conference. Here's what it said. Getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night is best, but weekdays demands may make that impossible for some. In that case, sleeping in when you're able to might help your heart. Here's what they found. People who did the most catching up on their sleep had a 20% lower risk for heart disease versus those who kept subpar sleep schedules. All right, here's what that means basically when looking at this. The best that you want to do is 7 to 9 hours every single night. Most people should just shoot for 8. Honestly, if you train hard, if you're more anxious, Vata body type, will lose weight more easily, on the side of more closer to 9. But most people, 8 hours. Okay, that's the best. Now, if you catch up on the weekends, it's not better than sleeping 7 to 9 hours every night. However, it's much better than sleeping, call it 6 hours every night of the week, right? And it was actually, it lowered your risk for heart disease by 20% because people overlook sleep. They're like, oh, sleep's no big deal. I feel fine the next day. No, sleep increases inflammation, typically increases blood sugar, and it does a number on your heart and not in a good way. So I'm telling you right now, dial in that sleep. One of the best things that you could do, yes, nutrition, of course, is important, but I would actually say, and I know that this is going to ruffle a little feathers, but sleep is as important as movement and exercise. It might be more important. It's probably more detrimental to only get 4.5, 5 hours sleep than it is not to exercise. That's how strongly I feel about sleep. All right. So we can draw straws. They're all important, but really we want to dial in on that sleep and catch up on the weekends. If you need to catch up on the weekend, for me, I try to get my 8 hours every night, but I will tell you that I sleep in an extra, it averages probably, I think I actually just saw my seasonal report by Aura. I sleep about an extra 45 minutes on the weekend, Saturdays and Sundays. So instead of waking up between 5:30 and 6, I probably wake up closer to 6:30 on the weekends. All right, so that's research study number 1. Of course, I'm going to link it up for you at stevencabral.com/3556, along with the Headache Pro hat and all the research here today. All right, the second one is this. This was a great one. This is a random one. You might say, why are you bringing this up? It's because I've seen it help for over 20 years, and it's still a little strange to me, but maybe someone's experienced it themselves. This is, and I see the studies over and over, but I've also seen it firsthand in real life working with many clients. So here it is, small study, but it was done with over 100 patients on depression by researchers at the University of Hong Kong, published in the Journal of Affective Disorders. All right, clay art therapy can help with depression. Compared with other forms of visual art therapy, patients with depression who work with clay for 2.5 hours per week for 6 weeks experience better improvements in overall health, depressive symptoms, and mind, body, spirit well-being. Researchers concluded that working with clay helps with emotional regulation and should further be explored to examine its efficacy for depression. Now, great, first couple studies. There's actually been multiple studies before this. But the reason I bring it up is that art and dance and singing, all of these things have actually been shown to be great with depression. Exercise, of course, is like number 1. But working with your hands, it doesn't have to be clay, but clay is this moldable thing where people kind of lose themselves in it. It's different than drawing. It's a little different than painting. You're actually working something into significance, like into like this 3D reality. And you're working with a wheel typically, or you're just really working with your hands. I'm telling you right now, and I've done a podcast on this on a Mindset and Motivation Monday, so it's probably not out of left field. But the more you work with your mind, the more you need to play with your hands. And I wish I could give somebody credit for that line, but like if you work with your mind, you play with your hands. It's so important because that's ultimately what gets you out of your head and back into your body. And working something, making a bowl, a cup, a mug, whatever it might be. These things I've seen work over and over in my practice. I can't fully tell you exactly why it works, but I believe it's exactly what I stated. It's just like getting people out of their heads and into their body, and they're creating something and they feel like they're actually manifesting, they're making something. And I think that has a lot to do with it. So yes, exercise. Yes, eat an anti-inflammatory diet. Yes, take your nutritional supplements, run the Big Five, run the mind and mood neurotransmitter test. All of those things can be great. But I mean, if you like to do art and you are open to working with clay, a couple classes a week could be phenomenal for you, or do it with someone that you know does have depression. Take them on a Saturday. Go, do a sculpture-based class. It would be phenomenal. I'll link that up as well. You can dive deeper. Hopefully today's show is helpful. You can find all those details at stephencabral.com/3556, and be sure to tune back in tomorrow where we go over answering our community's questions. All right, take care, everybody. Have an amazing weekend.